So, one of the big things that we're going to talk about today is the shift in how social media is utilized, not only by AI search engines like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, but also from the prospect and client perspective. So, we're starting to move away from top of mind to easy to find. And what that looks like is making sure that you have a current and credible presence. So we just kind of touched on that. You know, if you've been to a profile of a business and you see they haven't posted since 2022, well, then I bet you go to Google next to see if they're still open. And advisors fall into that same category as individual business owners. So it's important to have a relevant, trust building presence online. So we're going to get into a really cool statistic here on this next slide that talks a little bit about the validation process before the conversation even starts. 96% of people referred to a financial advisor still research them online before making contact. Okay, that's a huge number. I mean, that's almost all. So that means if Sally tells Sue that her advisor is the best in the business and she must call him, well, Sue's going to look her up online before she reaches out. And that could be going to Google. That could be going to ChatGPT and asking a specific question about her retirement plan to see if this advisor falls in line. Or it could be going to social platforms. And the last one I mentioned, going to ChatGPT, also falls in line with social platforms as well, because now they're reading that as an overall reputation builder. So price specs are more self-directed today. They're expecting more consistency in your online presence. And ways that you can achieve that is making sure that you look current, you look credible, you have a brand or a niche or a service reflected clearly when you're posting. So that could be content that you're sharing, it could be in your bio. We'll get into an example here in just a second, too, kind of giving you a real life a real life note taker. But the overarching theme here is not just to have a ton of posts. You don't want to just put out anything and everything. You want to put something that matters to you, matters to your clients, and it helps support trust before anyone even contacts you. Mike, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super important. Have definitely had the experience of like, looking up some type of business, going and looking at their Instagram profile or something just to see, a lot of times I think of social media as like the most up to date, right? So if there's a local business, their website, they may not be, maybe they're not going to update their hours there, or a coffee shop. They may not update their hours if they're closed, but a lot of times they'll put it in like an Instagram story. So I'll go check there. And if I go to somebody's, a business's social profile that I'm kind of researching and there's nothing there, I'm kind of like, well, are they still open? Are they still in business? So it doesn't really create the best first impression if, you don't see really any social posts, or there's no social posts for like the last month or year or whatever that is. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's critically
Mike, you
important.
just touched on like a really important aspect of it. When you went to that social profile, it left you with questions and not answers. And the way AI is reading social is the same way. They are going to provide the search query with an answer. And if they go to the profile and they too have questions, well, what's going to happen? You're not going to get an answer there. So that is a really good segue into one of our clients' LinkedIn pages. So I did get permission from Mediate to share this with you today. And we're going to go over a couple things that really make them stand out online. From the jump, when you look at this profile, and I don't know if the presentation is mirrored, but on my left-hand side of the screen, it might be your right-hand side of the screen, you'll see their homepage. And the first thing that jumps out to me is their theming and branding is consistent. They have their logo right there in the profile picture. They have a banner here. This looks like a legitimate business. If I was referred to them and I went and saw this for the first time, I would say they look like an established business, just off the cuff. Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure. It looks premium. It looks consistent.
So
And I do notice that post looks recent.
yeah, yeah. So I had put this together just a few days ago, but I probably could bet if I went on their LinkedIn page today, they've posted again. They post very consistently and they have a great variety of content too. So they're not just posting, specials, deals, or contact us. They're also posting educational content from others. They're sharing posts. And I know as a reader online myself, I may not always engage with a post, but let's say my financial advisor reposts a, New York Times article. Well, maybe I glanced over that headline when I was looking on the New York Times, but when my advisor posts it, I may do a double take and take a look at that. But when you go to that profile, like you pointed out, Mike, you see that they're actively posting. So you know the information that they're sharing will be the most relevant and current. Now, you're not the only person that will come to that conclusion. So will AI sources. All these language learning models that are answering prospective questions are seeing that this is an active business as well. And in LinkedIn's update, we'll get into it a little bit more on the LinkedIn slide, but the overview. So the overview is really important. And everyone on this call, this is where you really need to like listen, tune in if you're tuning me out. The first 220 characters on that page are for the human reader. That is the section that you can see before you hit view more. After that, maybe a human will hit view more. They might read all of it, but chances are you're writing it for AI. So as you can see here, I did take a little snippet of theirs. And if you really want to read everything they wrote, you can find their LinkedIn online. But you see, they write what they've specialized in. They talk about their president and founder. They even mention different awards. They have their website, they have their phone number, and they have their industry all listed here. And the last screen cap, again, it's on the right-hand side of my screen. It might be the left-hand side of yours. Um, LinkedIn was the second source that Claude provided me when I asked a chat inquiry about Mediate Financial. So this is a really great, easy resource. You can update your LinkedIn profile to match your about page or even add on those extra things like what you specialize in so that if you have Sue, who's been referred, and she goes on Claude and says, does Mediate Financial specialize in investment strategy and asset allocation? They're going to say, yes, according to LinkedIn, here's the source. This company can help you with that. So, this is a really easy tool for you to update, and it's free to you.
Very
Oh,
cool.
Mike, yeah, I wasn't sure if you had
Yeah,
any thoughts on this one.
I like it. It's a great profile, and I like how simple it is too, right? Like if I come here, somebody referred me to Media Financial, check it out. If I live in Ohio, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, they're local, right? Here's the things they specialize in. I can start to check the boxes for what I'm looking for, right? And it feels good.
Yeah, making sure that you have locations there is really important too, because it will help with search inquiries like financial advisors that help with life transitions near me. Having that on there will help you come up. And if you're a nationwide office or you service multiple areas, it's good to have that physical location and then you can include nationwide after so that you can come up in other search results. But having that local, regional location will help you come up for the near me aspect of search queries. So let's talk a little bit about supporting visibility. We did just touch on it, but we're going to talk about how you can apply it. So one of the things you want to do are in bold, and here's how in the not bold. So you want to reinforce your expertise and relevance, and you can do that by clearly stating your audience, services, and areas of focus. We just saw a really great example of that with Mediate Financial on the last side. Creating more consistent brand signals across the web. So that's having those details, the visuals, the messaging across platforms match. So an example would be if you're a CFP and you have that mentioned on LinkedIn, but you don't have it on your bio page on your website, well, that might confuse AI. They may even present the reader with a question back stating, this says they're a CFP here, but not here. Maybe check with them or see if their license is up to date. So making sure that you have consistency across all web signals is going to help you come up in trusted search results. Supporting visibility beyond your website, we kind of touched on that just now, but making sure that you're associated with topics that are in your brand or niche. So if you don't do any trust and will, then don't repost an article about it or write your comments on LinkedIn regarding it because it's going to let AI know that that's an interest of yours, even if it's not a service you provide. So keeping consistent and sticking within your brand and your niche is very important. Making sure your business looks active. Mike talked about that. That coffee example was really great. Is this business even open? Do they even still provide these services? And I think from, a prospect looking at an advisor page, my thoughts would be if it's not updated and they have a really old headshot and they haven't updated anything, it's not connected, my thoughts would be like, Are they growing or are they retiring? Are they looking for a way to sell their business? Are they still taking on clients or not? That would be a concern for me if I was shopping for a new advisor. Demonstrating credibility over time, so making sure that you have helpful content that reflects your real expertise. Again, Mediate Financial is a really great example of that. Everything they share is a service they provide. Everything that they interact with is a service they provide. So that's a good one. It is bigger than prospecting. I know social media used to be a really large tool for prospecting, but we are shifting away from that. 40% of consumers say they're looking for educational content and the number one type of content that they want from brands. And 27% want it to be community focused content. And I think as a user of social media, everyone on this call, you understand that. You feel the same way. You're more likely to engage with something that is interesting. So if it's educational and it's a topic you want to learn about, well, you'll probably stop scroll and learn about it. You're here today, you're tuning in. Social media is of interest to you. So maybe after this call, you'll get a tip online. Maybe you'll stop scroll because it's interesting to you. And 27% want community focused. I think, overarching post-pandemic, everybody wants some form of community. And being able to have those warm fuzzies is a really easy touch point on social as well. Maybe your son graduated college. Well, you can share that as an advisor, and you'll probably be able to build some rapport that way with your clients. If you focus or if you supported a local event like a fundraiser, that's another good community focus connection. It builds credibility. But all of these aspects are hoping and helping nurture the client relationship, build referral confidence, and stay visible between touch points. They're reinforcing trust and familiarity over time, and hopefully, if you're doing it right, supporting long-term brand presence. Mike, before I move on, any thoughts?
Yeah, I love that point on community focused content. Because I think, for advisors especially, this is a trust-based business. And the educational posts for sure, we want to have those. But I think putting a little bit of yourself in there, like stuff that you're doing in the community, so that personal story, right, about kids helps everything feel a little bit more real, and it helps people connect to you as a person beyond just a business, right? Which I think is important, yeah, especially in this business.
Especially in this business. And you know what? I forgot to mention something on the slide where we were looking at that example of a LinkedIn page. I meant to offer this opportunity to the audience, and we still have time. So please, if you want to be a participant in this, Mike and I will review your social profile at the end of the call. If you want to drop in a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page for us to take a look at. And again, we'll provide your feedback or our feedback live. So completely optional if you want to share that with us, and we'll take a few minutes at the end to talk about ways for improvement or even just pros that you're doing well, and how that is looking across online visibility. So again, if you want to drop in your social profile, LinkedIn or Facebook, feel free to put it in the chat. Let's jump in to how the algorithms are being updated for the 2026 playbook here for some of these top social platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Nextdoor, and the different roles they play. So Facebook has done something really cool in the last year. Previously, the algorithm was focused on, let's say, your core five. I'm going to simplify the way the algorithm used to work. But let's say five people engaged with your first post. So your next post comes out and it shows it to those first five again. If those five engage again, it'll show it to lookalikes of the five. Whereas if those five don't engage the second time, your post dies. And that has been a problem with the Facebook algorithm from users and marketers in particular. It's been an uphill battle, but Facebook is trying to combat that by uplifting views in the organic feed and video posts. So what does that mean? That means they're now having their own AI take a look at the video content and validating if it is trustworthy, if it is helpful, and if it'll answer a common query of their user. So if a user is looking for a financial advisor that specializes in trust and will, and a financial advisor posts a video explaining how he helps clients with trust and wills, maybe they don't have the same network. Maybe they're not connected by any mutual friends, but they may get that video on their feed or that post because Facebook is trying to update the algorithm to be more useful for its users. And that gives us an opportunity as businesses to advertise more organically and connect with those people that need that information, that are actively looking for it without having to do so much heavy lifting or already have that connection in place. So, this is a really exciting update with Facebook. I do have the demographics up here if anyone is interested. This is of as of 2026, so 71% of adults use Facebook, and the age ranges are 30 to 49, which is 80%, and then about 50 to 64 is the age range for 74%. The broader audience on Facebook is women, so this is a great place to be posting that community feel content. Some other content that you can share on Facebook would be financial tips, maybe like 3 financial planning tips before retirement, office and community updates. That could be, your admin that's been there for 10 years celebrating that anniversary. You guys got her flowers. It could be team milestones or even something warm and fuzzy. Like I know at my last firm, one of our best posts was one of our team members ran the Chevron Marathon in Houston. And so that was like a really exciting, warm and fuzzy. It was an easy connection. It was something we heard in the office for weeks to come. As people came in to meet, well, I saw so and so ran. It was such a cool thing. Having those more personal touch base or touch points on Facebook will help build that credibility. It'll connect more with your clients. And again, we have that really exciting new update with the algorithm that allows you to potentially reach a new audience organically. Mike, any thoughts on this before I go to the next one?
I think what's cool about that algorithm update is, you know, a lot of times when you're dealing with with a social media algorithm, you are trying to maximize engagement, and the stuff that gets the most engagement tends to be negative posts, right? And you'll see a lot of those rise to the top, or like really, really viral posts. And I think for financial advisors, that could be kind of a tough game to play. Like you don't want to be throwing this type of stuff out there for a lot of reasons, compliance being one of them as well. So not having to play that game, and certainly those types of posts are still going to be the ones that get the most traction. But the fact that Facebook has updated the algorithm to give a nice little lift to useful content, to educational content, and not just the stuff that's getting the most engagement, I think is a really nice add-on for business owners. So that's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. I hope they continue this path because ultimately it would just keep, users on the platform more if they're feeling like they're getting what they've been looking for elsewhere online. So now we're jumping into LinkedIn. LinkedIn has made a couple announcements as of 2026, but like all things with AI and social media, it is ever changing. So we anticipate more updates throughout the year from all of these platforms, but LinkedIn especially because one of the things that they talked about, and Mike, you probably don't know this, they're trying to crack down on automated comments and inauthentic engagement, which I'll be honest, when I learned this, I thought that's kind of funny because LinkedIn was one of the first platforms I saw that was providing those auto responses, like congrats on your 1 year anniversary, just a default click and send. Now they're trying to move away from that. They want the platform to be more authentic engagement and truly be a social place on social media. So that's something that we need to be on the lookout for. Funny enough, Instagram CEO just did a post the other day explaining like if you have cars driving in the background or birds chirping or a dog barking, that may rank higher because people are looking for authentic engagement in this new AI space. The caveat, as I mentioned earlier, is LinkedIn is a source that AI is using for truth. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here where you do need to write for AI. And one of the things you can do on LinkedIn to do that is an article post. So if you post an article, articles tend to not get as much engagement. They don't necessarily get as many likes or reshares. But what having that there does is allows AI to see more about your niche. It builds your credibility. And it comes up in search results. So having that overview really lined out, that was that example I showed you earlier, and then starting to post and create those articles from your company page, or if it's a solo advisor business page, having those there will really help position you on different language learning models like Chat, Claude, and Gemini. So what to do? Focus on authentic engagement. So instead of clicking that auto response when you're commenting on someone's post, write something, type it on the keyboard or on your thumbs on your phone. Spend just a few more minutes to do so. And that's gonna show LinkedIn that you're an active user and a real participant, and it's more likely to share your content. Another thing LinkedIn talked about was prior to posting. So if you have this really great post, you're doing a client event and you want all your clients to see it, but you're also kind of hoping it's a prospecting event. What month are we in? End of April. So you're doing a shredded event so everyone can come and shred their tax paperwork. Great. When you're posting that, before you do, go engage with your audience. Go like a couple of the posts of your clients. Go look through your followers and write a few things. Go like one of their skills on there. And when you post, LinkedIn's going to say, hey, these are clients of this business or these are connections of this business. So maybe they want to see the thing they just posted. So that's another really exciting, good tip for LinkedIn. And it works too with prospecting. If you're focused on trying to get more dental clients, for example, well, then you can go and start commenting and posting on different dental clients' posts. And then when you share something, it might show up in their feed if you're connected. So I see a chat come in. Was it a question regarding this page before I move on? Like,
No, you're good to keep going.
okay. So we're gonna get into X. I am personally not a user of X, but that makes sense because the broader audience is male. The strongest age range here is going to be between 18 and 29. I don't think a lot of people know this, so I did want to include that here. But this is a great opportunity to get in with those, college kids that are just starting those first jobs and getting a 401k. Retirement planning can never start too soon, right? But this is an opportunity where you can connect with a younger audience potentially, and ways to do that is make sure that you are quick. So X is moving fast. This is not a sit it and forget it platform. This is something that you are relevant on. They did say that they updated their network, or I'm sorry, their algorithm to not just be based off of follower count, which is a really cool and exciting update. Kind of seemed like when you'd first get on X, or formerly known as Twitter, it would always be the larger accounts that you'd see in the feed. They're optimizing that. So that's not necessarily how that's working for discovery anymore. They're starting to shift away from that so that, again, it becomes a little bit more of a personalization based on the individual user's interest and needs. So making sure that you're posting something up to date could be market or economical news. Could be short financial planning reminders like tax season's coming up or something tied to current events, commentary on trends or, different things that apply to this age range. Or, you could branch out a little bit, but I think X is a really cool tool for prospecting that age group because they are the largest user on X. It's not the only user. But I do think this would be a really unique way for an advisor to take advantage of this platform. Next is Nextdoor, and I may have Mike chime in here because we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and he is an active user of Nextdoor. Nextdoor is something that is highly local. It is very centralized. It doesn't follow an algorithm like the other social platforms do, but there are ways to get visibility included, and that could be frequency in posting, really connecting with other businesses or all of those neighbors that are in here, and just being a genuine resource for the community. If you're able to position yourself that way, it's going to help you leverage this platform. But again, it's a highly localized platform. And Mike, I think I'm going to let you jump in because you use this app.
Yeah, well, I'm on it. I don't use it a ton, but I will say the really interesting thing about about Nextdoor is that localized element. So if you have used it before, you're not just in this big social environment like Facebook where there can be people all around the world. you are in like a neighborhood or the small community around you. And because of that, I think it's really powerful for local businesses. So if I was a local business owner, I would absolutely be using Nextdoor. I think there's some really interesting things that they are doing with AI that has an impact on how you're going to surface outside of Nextdoor, but then certainly how you're going to surface within Nextdoor. It's a great place to make local connections. You could be promoting events there. You could be driving referrals there. You could be running ads there. So when I go on Nextdoor to check out different things that are happening locally in the community, I'll see ads from contractors, from a lot of different types of local businesses like that. Um, and yeah, I think that local element is something to lean into. And so if you work with local clients, you want to work with more local clients, then yeah. And so Lou just dropped a really interesting question. How would you advise managing risk with the hyper-local nature of Nextdoor? It's a very toxic platform in my community. That's a good
No.
question. Do you have thoughts on that, Destiny?
Well, that is unfortunate. That's a lot like those neighborhood Facebook pages, isn't it? You get one person griping and then they all jump on. I think like all social platforms, there is the opportunity for negativity. We've seen that since its conception, and I wouldn't say that it's worth, I mean, navigating risk. I don't know what you're risking outside of a few negative commenters. I guess a way you could combat that is by having clients advocate for you on that platform. I don't know if it's not worth the risk. If you could have a really large account in your neighborhood and that becomes a social resource where they're referring you out, I don't know that it's not worth the risk. I guess it would depend on your neighborhood and your area and the size of your town. One of the reasons Mike and I were talking about this is I'm in Houston, which is a very large metro, whereas he's in a smaller town. So he has a truly localized service platform. So to navigate risk, I think it ultimately comes down to your objective. Is your objective to grow in your localized area? If yes, I think it's worth the risk. If no, and you are capable or able to take clients, in other areas, if that's something that works for you, if you can meet with them remotely, if you have a business that's set up that way, and you're not willing to endure potential negativity online, then maybe you could go with that strategy instead. Mike, what do you think?
I think because of what we're talking about, right? This local element and just the way that Nextdoor is set up, it's a little bit different than these other platforms. Where with Facebook, with LinkedIn, with X, you do want to have this posting frequency of being current. I don't know that that is quite as important with Nextdoor. What Nextdoor does present is this opportunity to connect with your local community. And certainly there's toxicity on all kinds of social media. I see it everywhere. I even see it in the next door neighborhood that I'm a part of, right? But it does tend to be a few people who are doing that all the time, and they make an outsized amount of noise with these comments, and that is what it is. But a lot of other people are there, and they aren't necessarily engaging in that type of negativity. And so I think showing up with value when it makes sense, right? If you go through, somebody's asking a question where you can add value, not necessarily self-promotional. So that's where I would steer clear of like, hey, I'm a financial advisor. I can help you, come check it out here. Maybe just offering some value. And then if people want to go take a look at your profile, they can do that, right? It's a place where you may want to run ads, where you might want to, if you have clients who are on Nextdoor and somebody's saying, hey, is there a financial advisor that you would recommend? Just mention to them, hey, if you see somebody asking on Nextdoor, feel free to drop my name. I'm on there as well. I'm happy to connect with people there too. So the positive things that I see happening on Nextdoor is that somebody asking, hey, is there a handyman you would recommend? Hey, I need a babysitter. Hey, I need this. And then all these people chiming in and offering these referrals. I see ads that sometimes people will have ads that grab my attention. I'm like, if I was looking for that service, I would totally reach out to that person. Um, but ultimately, you may also just want to join if you haven't already. Take a look and get a feel for the platform and see what is like where are people responding positively and negatively, and then how can you kind of figure
Engage with those that are positive. Yeah. Yeah, and kind of to that, you kind of to wrap it up, anywhere that you put yourself out online, you open yourself up for negativity. I mean, it's just any platform. When there's a recording of this and they put a clip of Mike and I on Snappy, we might get a weird comment. It's just part of the online world, and generally speaking, for anyone that, is worried, these people would probably never say this to you in person. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. And I know when you're thinking about it from a business perspective, you're worried, will this look negatively on my business? And you can only hope that the clients that want to work with you are smart enough to see through bad false reviews, or, something that is clearly someone that is perhaps not emotionally in the best state when they're making that comment. And I know as a reader of reviews, I can kind of see through that sometimes. I'm like, I'm not on their side. They gave this business a 1 star, but I think their review sounds like they might have been the problem. So, hopefully you're working with educated clients, clients that you want to work with anyway. So, great question. Really, really a fun one, I think, and very applicable to all platforms. So let's talk a little bit about what you should be posting. So this can apply for any and all educational insights. So that could be something that you or your team have put together. It could be something that the Snappy Kraken team has put together in our content library. It could be timely commentary, so your thoughts or opinions on something taking place now. Simple explanations of financial topics, and I know we get into compliance here a little bit, but there's ways to abbreviate without stepping on any toes, or getting into a compliance issue here. Like it could even be very simple and saying, I love talking about this. Call me today. This is my specialty, so that really keeps you out of any compliance problems there. Brand and value content. So really creating what your brand is. There's a business in my town that has a dog in the office. They post that dog in the office all the time. It's an insurance company, and I know that they sell insurance, and I know this company because I see the dog online all the time. So their brand is very tied to that. But what that tells me is their values are focused on kind of connection, real connection in the office. They have a lot of birthday posts. So it could be something that shows you're very community focused. It could be, like we talked about earlier, sponsoring a local fundraiser, client-friendly reminders and event planning. So this shows that you are helpful. I know I almost forgot to file my taxes this year until I saw some reminders online. And I thought, well, that's kind of funny because all we do is talk about tax season here at Snappy too. But still, it was Facebook that reminded me I better go ahead and file. So, these are all easy ways to stay engaged, and overarching what this is doing, even if you're not seeing those likes and those comments and those reposts on it, it's showing that you're active. This is a real business. This business is functional. And if you have that theming and branding, then you also look at a very established business. So just being able to be more active online is going to be beneficial for you for AI visibility and for human interaction when they do see you or go to your profile. So let's talk a little bit about vanity metrics and ways to focus on what the overall goal is. And like I mentioned a minute ago, I might have jumped the gun. I kind of covered this one. But making sure that you are active on there, your profile is complete, you have consistency in posting. Engagement quality. That is not engagement towards you. That's you engaging with others, making sure that when you are commenting, you're doing it authentically. And maybe you do it in the morning when you check your email. You spend 5 minutes on LinkedIn, 5 minutes on Facebook. Well, that was only 10 minutes of your day where you were engaging with others, but it's going to help your posts perform as well. So you're helping yourself and you're helping continue to nurture those relationships. Website traffic from social, you can direct it, but website traffic in general is down because of AI, because so many people are getting their answers from AI overviews when they're doing search queries. And some of that comes from social. So having that is going to help make sure your message is consistent. Maybe your About Me page on your website is up to date and absolutely fantastic, but you haven't updated your overview on LinkedIn and you don't have what your About Me section is on Facebook. But maybe it won't come up in that AI overview, or it's not as thorough as it could be because AI is saying, I'm not sure which is true. These are all different. So making sure that that message is consistent is going to help. Branded search activity, and then overall strength of your digital presence. These are things that you want to look out for. We have this really great quote here from one of our clients who also did a case study with us. Thank you, Tony, for doing that. Through Snappy Kraken, he posted 800 social posts in about a year and a half. And one of the things that he said in doing that is that he could see where people connected with him, however it was, whether it was a webinar, event, or social, and he was able to tailor the content from there. So when he was seeing engagement on social posts regarding, let's say, retirement planning, well, now he knows to put them in a bucket where he can engage with them via email over retirement planning. Or maybe he's hosting a webinar in 2 weeks and it's focused on retirement planning. So he's going to reconnect with those social users and ensure that they're getting content that they want, and that builds a real connection. These are his words. He wanted to be a resource for them, and it allows him to build brand credibility and trust. So, social is a part of that overall 2026 marketing playbook. Mike, before I go to the next slide, any thoughts on this?
I think you covered it really well. Yeah, I think the engagement quality, like that you're actually going out and engaging, is a really good point that I hadn't thought about. I think when I've thought about social in the past too, like measuring the success of my posting is, what kind of engagement am I getting from my followers, likes and comments. But it's really good to think about it the other direction too, right? Like that LinkedIn algorithm update that you were talking about is like, don't just automate everything, right? For the platforms that you're investing in, be a real person on there. Go and like other people's things, comment. And the more that you engage, the more that's gonna come back to you as well.
Yeah, and you just reminded me something when it comes to engagement. Um, when you're posting something, maybe you see you got a lot of views, but you didn't get a lot of interactions with it. That doesn't always mean, especially in this industry, that it wasn't really looked at or nurtured. And I'll give you an example. Maybe we'll say Meredith. Meredith is 50 and she is just now starting to plan for retirement. So she finds on LinkedIn an advisor's page, they have an article about planning for retirement at the age of 50 or after 45 and how to catch up. This article talks about it's not too late to start today, and maybe she invests her time reading this article. She is excited by it, and she even goes to the next step of connecting with the advisor that shared that article. But why didn't she like it? Well, likes are public. So maybe she was embarrassed to share that information with others, with her group of peers. Maybe she didn't want people to see that she was in that bucket because of some form of embarrassment or, idea of privacy. So, don't always look at your valuable content not getting those, likes, comments, and likes, comments, and reshares as a oh, well, maybe it's really not that valuable. Maybe people don't want to see this. Well, because you can see if they go and look at it. And some people are doing that, but not engaging just out of privacy concerns. So I don't want you to be discouraged from sharing content if you don't see those likes and comments. Continue to have those, especially with AI, because like I said, they're reading articles on LinkedIn. So that's going to come into a search query. Whereas if she didn't see it on LinkedIn, Meredith, she went to chat, you might have come up from that because it fit her unique situation. All right, let's talk about compliance. Everyone loves compliance. It's the best part of being in financial advising. Compliance should not be treated as an afterthought. Make sure that when you're on LinkedIn and you're on Facebook, you're using business pages. I used to work at a firm, and I can't tell you how many advisors were going to get us in trouble because they'd make a page, but they didn't make the right kind of page. So it is separate from a personal account. And most BDs require you to have a separate business page. Keep personal and business separate. And that goes especially for Facebook, even if you're really good friends with your clients, you got to be careful. Um, Make sure that you check with your BD's policies regarding communication that isn't public. So that goes for direct messages. It's primarily for direct messages. The instant messenger, especially if you're trying to use LinkedIn as a prospecting tool where you're sending out messages, make sure you get that upfront clearance on it before you engage, because the last thing you want to do is get your social platforms in trouble here with compliance. And make sure that when you are sharing, reposting, or adding your comments, you are keeping FINRA in mind or using a platform like Snappy that provides already compliance approved content. I mean, that simplifies the process a ton. And we'll get into a little bit here of what we offer before we get into Q&A to just talk about it a little bit more. But make sure you document everything and that you have an archival process so that communication isn't deleted if it takes place. I know that sometimes people can message you even if you're not allowed to message back. Just keep it, don't delete it, make sure it still lives there so that compliance can review in the event of. And Mike, oh, we're not quite there. I'm jumping ahead. How are we doing on time? Are we doing bad on time?
No, you're doing great. We're
Okay.
it's 2:43. So yeah, let's do
Okay.
this. We got one submission for an advisor profile to look at.
Ooh, very
So I
brave.
Yeah, very cool. So we'll jump into that after you cover this.
Okay. So here are some common mistakes to avoid. I did not use a real profile for this. Don't worry, no one is getting called out unless your profile looks like this, then I wouldn't submit it to our chat box right now. But here are some common mistakes. This is a Facebook page not having a cover photo up here. Cover photos are for humans, but they can include a lot of things. They could include previous awards. They should have your logo. It could be a picture of the exterior of your business, especially if you have a really nice office or something, unique that you want people to see so they know what to look for when they're driving up. The logo ideally should say a little bit more than just be a leaf. You should have an about section, making sure that that whole content area is filled out. So you can see all it says is financial planner here. Well, that's not very helpful. If you go on Facebook right now and you type in financial planner, the best Facebook pages are going to come up. The ones that have the most information are going to come up. This one would probably not come up. As you can see, their last post was 2024. You'd probably get on this page and immediately leave it. As a user, if you're being honest with yourself, so you'd get on this page and you'd go, this doesn't look like a legitimate business, or it's not one that I want to work with. This doesn't look like something if I referred my friends to, they would think my finances are in good hands. So that is the mindset you need to be in when you're updating or creating or just modifying your existing profiles online because it has shifted. It's shifted a lot in the way that usability has taken place as well as AI visibility. Mike, I see you unmuted.
No, you're good. I wasn't gonna I
Not
wasn't
for a
gonna add
reason.
anything. I
Okay.
had to clear my throat. I didn't want to interrupt you, so I muted
Oh,
for one
okay.
second.
Yeah, so I think you guys can see what's on the screen, but I'll do a quick run through. Having inconsistent branding, only posting promotional content, not following compliance, having incomplete profiles, being inactive, or treating every platform the same. These are all ways that it can harm you. I don't think I touched too much on treating every platform the same, but we did talk about the demographics and based on those demographics, if these three different groups of people are standing in front of you, you may have a different conversation with each one. You may have a different selling point with each one. And so you need to think of your social platforms under that same guise. Who is your audience? Are they different on each? I shared with you all I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, but I'm not on X. So if you're sharing that same content on all of it, maybe you wouldn't reach me, or if you're primarily on X, so these are things to keep in mind when you're sharing online. LinkedIn, everyone knows, is a little bit more professional. Facebook, a little bit more community focused. X is going to be a little bit more fast paced, what's trending now. And then Nextdoor is highly localized. It's what's happening in your community and how you're contributing to it. So try to treat those platforms under those different guises. So now I'm going to pass the mic to Mike. I totally jumped ahead, sir, earlier. Sorry about that.
No, no worries. And you know what? We got one submission, so let's take a look at that first, and then
Okay.
we'll talk about how Snappy Kraken helps. And I have it already pulled up, so I could share my screen real quick.
Okay, I will stop
And
here.
we can talk through this
Very exciting.
really quickly. So, Erica, thank you for being brave, submitting your profile. I'll talk through a couple things, and then I'll let Destiny chime in as well, just because I had a chance to look at it already. So I know you mentioned you had to stop posting for a while, and you've recently started. Life things happen all the time. So that totally get it. I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things good here, right? You've got a professional looking profile. You've got your banner, your cover image. You got your image. I can see that you're posting regularly. I'm just gonna give three ideas of kind of small improvements that I think could have an outsized impact. The first one is this right here. I think instead of just saying, managing advisor at Ferraro Agency, that's great. That's your title, but there's an opportunity to have like a little bit more of a personal message there. I think if we went back, I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere here. Let's go see what because I think Media
Mediate.
Financial has a really good example of this. So in that line, they have committed to giving you peace of mind about your finances and your future, right? So something like that that kind of differentiates you a little bit, I think is cool because anybody who's an advisor could put their job title right here. But if you have a line that who you serve, how you help, what's different about you, that can really help you stand out, and that's cool. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you do have your about section filled out, which is awesome. But I think you could make it a little bit more personal, expand on it a little bit, right? So again, if we went and looked at the media example, they've got a little bit more information, right? What they specialize in, and because this is like your profile as well, it could be a little bit personal about you too, right? This is a place where you could interject a little bit of your story, who you are, who you like to help, why you got into this business. Um, so there's that. And then the last thing, love that you are posting regularly. And it looks like you're using Snappy Kraken, which is awesome. I would just recommend adding in a little bit of text here, right? And that's something you could write. If you have time, if you want to do it, you could use the built-in AI tools in Snappy Kraken to do it. Or we also have for all of so if anybody's not using Snappy Kraken, within Snappy Kraken, you have, our social, um, most of the social media within the platform is built into these larger campaigns, right? You can do standalone social campaigns, and that's totally cool. But a lot of times it's part of this larger campaign where you have congruence across your email list, right? Blogs that are being posted, content, different things like that. And social media is a piece of that. So it's this larger campaign strategy. And that's what a lot of these are, right? These are parts of different campaigns. So when you have those campaigns, we have all of these kind of pre-written social posts. You can come in and find that campaign. And then within each one of these, there's going to be a bunch of different social posts that you could use. So if in this case you were, posting this Visual Insights newsletter, you could come in here and say, hey, you know what? I like this one. Sitting in cash can feel safe over long periods of time, right? And then what I might do is actually just edit it a little bit, right? Interject something. Sitting in cash can feel safe. I remember blah, 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 like a little bit of a personal story, right? Something like that. Or, you can also use AI to very quickly do that type of thing. So those are the three things. One is adding some of that text in here so these don't just show up as links, so that they appear as a post. There's like a little bit of value added there. And then using this line for some type of call out that, who you help, why you got in the business, what something that's going to differentiate you from other advisors, and then expanding and making the about section a little more personal. What do you think,
Yeah,
Justin?
I agree. One caveat on the about section, and I almost used my personal financial advisor as an example of what not to do. They only had their first name, not their last name in their about section, so AI is not going to bring them up if you type in their full name, or even their full name in their firm. So making sure that when you write this, you do want to extend it. You want to include some of the services. 29 years, that's amazing. So definitely have that as your lead there. Having that personal experience is amazing. And again, that first 220 characters is mostly what the humans will see if they go to your profile. That's what they see before they hit see more. But you want to capitalize on that LinkedIn update, that opportunity to communicate directly with AI and have those services listed. Any awards that you might have gotten, put that below that 220 character threshold. And I know some of you are like, well, I don't really know where it cuts off. Of course, you can hit save and just look, or you can go to one of those AI builders like Claude or ChatGPT and say, hey, I know LinkedIn has an update. I know you're going to be reading my information. Can you write out a bio that works where the first 220 characters are written for the human reader, and the following is something that you would want to, be able to answer a common FAQ, and then plug in what those FAQs are. Like if you know your clients are always asking you X, Y, and Z, then make sure you have that as part of your answer or tied into the bio in some way. Like if someone's always asking you, do you offer this service? Well, you want to make sure it's listed here so that you are coming up for those search queries online. But yeah, Erica, thank you for volunteering for this. Overall, your profile looks really good. We love to see that you're active. Great headshot. And yeah, I think a couple tweaks here will really help your visibility online.
Yeah, yeah. Congrats on submitting, being brave. It's hard to do sometimes. I mean, I was just thinking about like, man, if I had to submit one of my profiles right now, yeah, I don't know if I would do that. So very brave. Kudos to you. And yeah, a lot of good here. Just a couple tweaks that could help. So I don't think anyone else submitted anything here. So let's wrap this
Oh,
up.
we
If you have
got one more.
questions. Oh, we did. Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
let's see. Okay. Yeah, I
Just
pulled
launched
up.
and pulled down most of my posts from a prior role, so no regular posts will appear. Okay, no worries. Let's open this up. All right, Lou. So how do you want to do this, Destiny? You want to kind of go through this with the same kind of lens as we just did?
Yeah, yeah, we can. I mean, I was just looking at the bio, and like quick first glance, Lou, my question is this your practice? So it starts with you at the top, and then it jumps right into Alpine Family Financial. So my initial question, and this was just, of course, me looking quickly, is do you own this firm? And if not, maybe we could make that a little clearer off the jump. So, yeah, Mike, feel free if you want to start, or I can. What would you prefer?
No, go for it. You're on a roll.
Okay. So it looks like you are a right, feel free to let me know in the chat if you are or not. Yes, you own it. Okay, we need to change this bio up. This should start with Lou Martinez, MBA, is the president and founder of Alpine Family Financial, which provides personalized financial guidance to individuals, families, and business owners. And then have a little bit more maybe about your background or the services that you offer, something that you want, like what your elevator pitch would be if you just met someone at a networking hour. That's that first 220 characters. And then below that is where you're going to include other services that maybe, you don't get an opportunity to touch on in that elevator pitch moment. And then anything else that you want AI to know about you. Anything else that might be on your website that you need to mirror as a second source of truth so it knows that that is what you provide or who you are or how you help your clients. How long you've been in business, make sure that those are consistent on both as well. Your LinkedIn looks good. I think you know already, as you provided the caveat when you shared, you got to interact a little bit more. It's good that you have over 500 connections. That's awesome. I know that's something that I always look for to see if someone's active. When I see that, I assume that they're active. And I know that's a big discussion in the advisor world. Do we just want any connections or do we just want clients? Um, so that again, that kind of comes down to your personal niche and how you're going to use social. If you are just going to connect with clients, or if you're growing your practice and you want to build, or if you want to be a thought leader in this space, then yeah, you probably need to work on connecting with more versus keeping your connection smaller. But this looks good. I see very easy opportunities for improvement in that about me section. Great headshot, front and center. I don't love your banner because it's white. So I wonder if there is a way where you could add, some third color back here that kind of makes it jump off the page a little bit more. And that might just be my opinion, Mike. Feel free to let me know what you think about the banner.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I don't know if this little line here is showing up for you. Very minor thing, but
I do
it
see
could
it.
be worth playing around with. You know, it's just in terms of, I wonder if the image is perfectly the right size, just based on where it's placed, like pulling it down a little bit so it's a little bit more centered. But then again, like you said, that background would be interesting to think about just to help it pop a little bit. But I love the logo.
Yeah.
Love mountains, love trees. So that's cool to see. It does grab my attention, and I didn't actually notice those other things until you pointed it out. So I think just from the perspective of having a nice looking profile, it looks really good to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, if a prospect came in, they would go, this is a legitimate business. That is overall one of your larger objectives. But yeah, to really beef up that AI visibility, let's update the bio, make it a little bit longer with that 220, that first part, for the human reader. And definitely update that this is your business. I mean, that's amazing. Congratulations. You should all be so proud as business owners, and that should be how you introduce yourself. So yeah, I think that is a really good profile. Those are my notes. I don't have anything else, Mike. And I think we have one slide left. Yeah. Do you want
We
me to
do.
screen share again, or you're driving? What would you prefer?
Yeah, no, I've got it.
Okay.
I just want to say, yeah, I think your points on the about here are fantastic. So I definitely agree with that. You know what? I think that kind of wraps it up, everybody. If you want to be more consistent on social, if you want to be more consistent with your marketing in general, look, that's something that we would love to help out with, right? One of the hardest parts about all of this is coming up with the content, right? And when we talk about that value content, we talk about that educational content. It's probably going to go beyond just like a social post. When you start to think about your marketing strategy, right? You're not just going to be posting on social all the time. You're not just going to be sending random emails. It's going to be connected to other things, right? Things that you're posting on your website, pieces of content, landing pages, um, lead magnets, all of these different things that take a lot of time to create and then to set up and automate. And that's what we do, right? That's what Snappy Kraken can help a lot with. So we have all of these ready to use social campaigns that, again, are built into these larger campaigns that include those landing pages, that include all of that content, and you can really speed up the process of doing everything that we're talking about today, right? Obviously, you want to take the time to set your profiles up the way Destiny's been talking about. But when it comes to being consistent, that's where we can really step in and help you do that. We've got tons of campaigns, all different types of campaigns, from lead generation, prospect nurturing, so on, across a lot of different audiences, right? So there's like over 200 campaigns in our library, and everything is editable, right? Which is really cool. And this is kind of what I was talking about, where everything is this larger campaign. Landing pages, there's forms you can put on your website. There's appointment booking pages, there's follow-up emails, and then social posts, right? Lots of social posts included. And you can go in and edit all of those things with AI. It's really easy. It's all these drag and drop builders. Click into something, edit it, use our OpenAI integration to create new images, rewrite text, all the above. And you can do it fast, right? So if you want to learn more about Snappy Kraken, we'd love to talk to you. There should be a link in the bio, or you can use this QR code. And ultimately, we appreciate you showing up. We appreciate you being a part of this community to invest your time in learning a little bit more about social media. So thanks for presenting on that, Destiny. That was great. I know I learned some things. I'm sure everybody here did as well. So it's really cool.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.